Hi there, Arduino. This word has been around for quite some time now, and most of the time you hear it being associated with electronic projects. But what exactly is Arduino? So in this video, I will be talking about what it is, what it can do, the Arduino family, and its difference with a popular single-board computer like the Raspberry Pi. But before that, please show me some love by hitting like and subscribe. So what exactly is Arduino? Well, the word Arduino refers to a lot of different things, but mainly Arduino is an open source hardware and software company in Italy. This company designs and manufactures single-board microcontrollers, which are used for building electronic projects. These single-board microcontrollers are called Arduinos, and there are a lot of different types of Arduinos. The most common, if not the most popular of the bunch, is the Arduino Uno, which is a simple board and a very good choice for beginners. It's because this board is relatively cheap and usually enough for most projects. And then you have fancy Arduinos, which is a more powerful processor and additional peripherals, like Wi-Fi connectivity. Now, aside from manufacturing single-board microcontrollers, it provided a software development environment known as the Arduino IDE. This software is where you write your program on how you want your Arduino to function. You can get it for free from their official Arduino website. What can you do with an Arduino? A lot of things. The things you can create largely depends on your experience and available resources. If you're just starting out, you can buy one of those Arduino kits and create simple but fun projects like a LED cube, a dimmer, or clamp-activated light. Now, for those of you with advanced experiences, you can create highly complex projects like a robot or IoT project for your home. There are a lot of nice projects on the internet, and I highly suggest you look around. Maybe you can find something you might be interested in. Why use Arduino? When it comes to creating microcontroller-based projects, there are a lot of options in the market. So why use Arduino? First, the Arduino boards are relatively inexpensive compared to other microcontroller platforms. The least expensive version of the Arduino module can be assembled by hand, and even the pre-assembled Arduino module costs less than $50. Second, it is cross-platform. It can run on Windows, Mac, and Linux operating systems, which is unlike most microcontroller systems, which are usually limited to Windows. Third, it has a simple, clear programming environment. It is easy to use for beginners, yet flexible enough for advanced users to take advantage of as well. The example programs it provides allows newbies to easily jumpstart a project, while the advanced users can extend new functionalities by adding libraries. And lastly, it has an open source and extensible software. The Arduino software is published as an open source tool, available for extension by experienced programmers. Now, before going into detail about the Arduino, some of you may confuse this with a single board computer that is based on a microprocessor. Let's clear the confusion now by comparing the Arduino with one of the most popular SBC, the Raspberry Pi. So what are their main differences? An Arduino is based on a microcontroller, which is an easy-to-use computer designed for beginners to run one program at a time over and over again. A Raspberry Pi, on the other hand, is a single-board computer based on a microprocessor that acts as a general-purpose computer. It is able to run various operating systems like Windows and Linux. The Raspberry Pi is able to run multiple programs and is more complicated to use compared to the Arduino. So how do I pick which one to get? If you want a simple-to-use board to handle simple repetitive tasks like reading the weather, opening a door, driving a simple robot, turning on an LED, etc., An Arduino would be perfect. However, if you want a fully operating computer that is able to run more complicated functions and the ability to run multiple tasks, an SBC like a Raspberry Pi would be perfect for you. Alright, enough about the SBC, let's go back to the Arduino. Now when someone mentions that they are using an Arduino for their project, there's a good chance that they are probably referring to the Arduino Uno. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a simple board and a good choice for those who are just starting out. It may not contain advanced features that can be found on the more expensive Arduinos, but it will be enough for most projects. And you probably won't outgrow it anytime soon. So now let me get you familiar with the different parts of this board. Some may find it tedious and intimidating, but making yourself familiar with it will be worth it. So let's dive in. The first thing that you need to do when using an Arduino is to power it up. You have two options. You can either use the barrel jack to connect it to your wall power supply, or use the USB jack while connecting it to the computer. By the way, you will also be loading the code to the Arduino using the same USB connection. I'll be talking more about that in the future video. Next is the voltage regulator. This is not something you will be or should be interacting with during your development, but it has an important role in the system. So let's get you familiar with it. The voltage regulator does what exactly it says. It regulates the amount of voltage that it lets into the board. In simple terms, it is a system designed to automatically maintain a constant voltage level. This is important because it protects the other parts of the Arduino from being damaged due to an excess in voltage. However, the voltage regulator also has a maximum limit on the voltage that it can regulate. So don't hook up your Arduino to anything greater than 20 volts. Next, we have the reset button. Pushing it will temporarily connect the reset pin to ground and restart the execution of the code that is loaded to the Arduino. This comes in handy when you want to restart the execution of the Arduino manually. Then we have the power light indicator. This lights up when the Arduino is connected to a power source. So if it does not turn on, then there's a good chance that something is wrong. You will have to recheck your circuit. Next is the TX/RX lens. TX is short for transmit, while RX is short for receive. These markings appear quite a bit in electronics to indicate pins that are responsible for serial communication. In the case of Arduino, these LEDs will provide us a nice visual indication whenever the Arduino is receiving or transmitting data, like when loading a new program onto the board. Then we have the main IC, which is the brain of the Arduino. The main IC may be slightly different from board type to board type, but it is usually from the Atmega line of ICs from the Atmel company. And finally, let's talk about the pins. The pins in the Arduino are places where you connect wires to construct a circuit. They usually have plastic headers that allow you to plug the wire right into the board. It has several kinds of pins, each of which is labeled on the board and used for different functions. First, we have the pin for ground, which has a label of G and D, and there are several ground pins on the Arduino. You can use any of which to ground your circuit. Then we have 5-volt pin, which supplies 5 volts of power, and 3.3 volts of pin, which of course supplies 3.3 volts of power. These power sources can be used to run a lot of simple components. Then we have the analog pins. These are the pins labeled A0 to A5 under analog and labeled. It can accept signal from an analog sensor and convert it to a digital value that is then used. Then we have the digital pins, which are located across the analog pins. These can be used as a digital input, for example, telling if a button is pushed, or as a digital output, turning off or turning on an LED. And then we have pins that can be used as a PWM. These pins are those that have a tilde sign. Or not just think of these pins as being able to simulate an analog output, like say dimming of an LED in and out. And lastly, we have the AREF pin or analog reference pin. Most of the time, you can leave this pin alone. It is sometimes used to set an external reference voltage as the upper limit for the analog input pins. The Arduino is a great choice as your first Arduino. It has everything you need to get started as a beginner. But as your project gets more ambitious, you might find that the specification of Arduino Uno may no longer be enough to meet your requirements. Do not fret, because the Arduino Uno is but one part of the Arduino family. There are still other Arduinos available from its official store. You have Arduino Nano, Arduino Due, Arduino Mega, Arduino Leonardo, and so on. And since it is an open source hardware, it means there are derivatives of Arduino boards that are available outside of the official Arduino store. This means that there are even more form factors and functionality that you can choose from, and these are all compatible with the Arduino development environment. Now, if you have finally selected the Arduino of your choice, but you wish you can add one more capability, then you might want to take a look at Shields. Shields are pre-built circuit boards that fit on top of your Arduino and provide additional capabilities like controlling motors, connecting to the internet, controlling an LCD, and much, much more. To know more about Shields, you can go to shieldlist.org. So in conclusion, Arduino is a nifty little board that allows newbies to easily jumpstart an embedded system projects. And being an open source hardware, you are provided with a lot of choices from both the official store and third-party vendors. And lastly, it provides a free and simple development environment. I hope this video was helpful and see you next time.